Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Hey listeners, ever wonder what it would be like to blow up your comfort zone at the tender age of 50? Well, we did just that. When our last kid went off to college, we hit the road in search of a new hometown. Now we bounce from city to city and bring you along for the ride. This is the Skip Town All-Stars podcast.
What's up, All-Stars? Welcome back to another episode of Skip Town. We have a very special guest with us today. She is an expert on all things Orlando, which is great because I haven't been in this area. For those of you that know, I lived here back in the 90s, back when University of Central Florida was still a Division III team. That's how long it's been. I'm ancient. Denise lived in Central Florida for a while. And
like 6 months.
6 months?
That's, a short time.
Okay.
Yeah.
6 months. You're qualifying that. You're
kind of
saying I never lived in Central Florida ever until now.
It kind of was.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show, Nora Loves Orlando. I had to add that on. Your Instagram handle is Nora Loves Orlando?
Yes.
I said it right.
You said it right.
Say it
Yeah.
right. Nora Love, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So I'm Nora Love. I am a housing provider in Orlando. I'm many things, but housing provider is one of the things in Orlando. I have been here since 2017.
Okay.
I am an implant from California.
Oh.
I have 3 kids, and I love Orlando. It's been a really great place that's allowed me to establish some roots and build myself up from nothing to having a pretty comfortable life out here. So I'm excited to tell you all about it.
Excellent.
Well, tell me and tell everyone listening, when did you come to Orlando? What year was it and what made you decide Orlando?
So it was, I believe it was late. It was around October-ish of 2017. And I remember that because it was right before like a big hurricane was coming. It was my first time experiencing like hurricanes in Orlando.
Irma.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And what brought me out here was, well, one, I came to Florida to escape my mother. As far away from her.
You literally went to the other country, the other end
side of the country.
This podcast just took a whole new direction.
It really did. Oh my gosh.
It was the rebelliousness in me, just trying to spread my wings and be independent. So I came out here. I also chased a guy out to Florida.
Oh, that will do it.
That always works out well.
That'll do it. Yeah, which of course didn't work out. Of course.
Did someone chase you to Florida? Did someone follow you to
Florida? You ended up out here too.
That's how I ended up in LA.
To get away from.
I was like, I got to get out of Florida.
I feel like a lot of people end up in LA that way.
Yeah, she stayed here. I left. So
that didn't work out, did it?
Not so much.
I know.
It did work out in the end, honey.
See, it worked out for the best. My situation worked out for the best too, but that relationship obviously did not work out.
That one's cooked.
Yeah, so I ended up out here not knowing anybody, no family, no nothing. When we broke up, my kids went to stay with their dad while I kind of figured out life. And I was really grateful that I was in Orlando when I was going through that, for sure. Yeah.
Okay. What made it so great during a tough time?
Because it's easy to get a job out here. I would say that's the number one thing. I stayed in a hotel where you pay weekly, and I bartended across the street.
Oh, okay.
And then I worked my way up to renting a room from a girl that went to the local college, and it was a house full of college girls. I was older than all of them, and it was really weird.
Yeah.
But, I was able to kind of work myself up and up and up until, I was able to be more independent.
Okay.
And so that's what I love about Orlando is you can get a job easily. Like
Right.
there's no excuse for anybody to not be able to find work out here.
Yeah.
Being that it is such a booming town.
It has
and there's
grown
so
a lot.
much to do. There's so many businesses that are thriving out here. So getting a job was fairly easy. Being able to find kind of community out here was fairly easy. So I wouldn't say easy. It was definitely not easy, but it was I was able to access resources and figure things out because there's so many options out here. So, yeah.
So you worked in the bar and restaurant industry for a while, and then did you go right to real estate from there, or?
I didn't. I job hopped for a little while.
Okay.
I worked in admin for a software company for a while until then COVID hit, and they were a business management software for hair salons and tattoo shops and stuff like that. So when COVID hit, all those businesses shut down.
Right.
The software companies stopped selling software to them, so I was laid off. But thankfully, I have my degree in fashion from Los Angeles, from FITM.
Yeah.
Oh,
We
nice.
were talking about that
Oh, my
before.
The
gosh.
Yeah.
Fashion Institute of Design
Yes.
and Merchandising in downtown LA.
Yes.
Okay, so what was
Yeah.
your concentration of study when you went there?
It was fashion design.
Nice.
Yeah, fashion
Okay.
design, which I love. I love arts, the art of it, but I hated the pattern making part because I hate math. So that part was
okay.
really difficult. But I got to bust out my sewing machine and started making face masks for the community.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was actually able to support my family, and we survived for a good 3-4 months
On
off of
masks.
just selling face masks.
Good for you.
I mean, we sold them for like $5 to $10 a pop, and I delivered them to the neighbors. Sometimes I was dropping off 10, 20 at a time for like a woman who was giving them to her, like the nurses and that work that she worked with and things like that. So yeah.
How did you get the word out?
Facebook.
Nice.
Facebook
Social
groups.
media.
Yeah. Social media, Facebook Marketplace, Facebook groups. I mean, this was
So Facebook was your platform to
It
get
was.
to sell the masks.
everyone
Okay.
was talking. You know,
It's
everybody
true.
everything was shut down. Everyone was home, so
Right.
everyone was talking. So
That was
everyone
brilliant.
was online.
When was the last time you had used your sewing machine prior to
It
that?
had been years, which is so sad because I loved creating, but you get into the grind of just working and surviving.
Feeding yourself.
Yeah. So it was fun. It was a lot of fun. But then eventually all the stores kind of picked up on it, and you could get a mask anywhere.
Right.
So nobody was going to pay $10 for one. We can get one at the Dollar Tree. So
Okay.
So from there I kind of transitioned into retail management for a little while, and that's when actually a little segue to that is how I met Phil. I started working during COVID. I got really interested in politics. I never cared
Everybody
about
did.
politics.
Everybody
Yeah,
did.
Yeah.
I didn't care at all about it. I was like, I don't want to talk about it. It's so depressing. But then I was like, I don't know what's going on. I need to know what's going on. So I started really paying attention, and then I started paying attention to local politics and found out there was a commissioner that was running for re-election.
Yeah.
And I got involved. I reached out to her. I was like, I want to volunteer. What can I do? So I ended up working on her campaign.
Nice.
It was amazing.
You really got involved. You weren't just
did.
watching like MSNBC or the local news. You literally got. What about her inspired you to do something like that?
Because she was the only woman that was running against 5 men for Orange County Commissioner of District 5 in Orange County.
Okay.
And she was the only woman, and she was a Latina woman, and I was really inspired by what she was doing, what she was saying, and I wanted to learn more. And it was great. She really welcomed me with open arms. I got to know her and her family. It was Myra Uribe for District 3.
Okay.
Did she win?
She did win. Yeah.
Oh,
she won in October
nice.
of 2020.
Okay.
And that's how I met Phil. Phil worked with her husband, and so he was around quite a bit during that time. And then eventually, I ended up working with him on some other projects.
That's
which was
who
pretty
we were
cool.
all on ESPN with. Myra was a host on the show with us.
Oh, okay.
She was a host as well.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's such a small, that's another thing I love about Orlando. It's really such a small town.
Yeah.
The locals, eventually you end up knowing someone who knows the same person, no matter what industry you're in.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that had to be a really big change coming from Los Angeles.
It was. Yeah. LA is definitely a lot busier, it's such a melting pot. It's a lot more congested than Orlando is for sure. And it doesn't have the same sense of community. There's a lot of division out there.
Yeah.
Where it is different like that out here. There's there's less competition and more collaboration.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So after you helped out with her campaign, why didn't you just get a job working for her?
I decided I hated politics.
Oh, are you serious?
Going through that made me hate politics. I saw a lot of ugly sides of a lot of grown-ups that I was like, ooh, I don't like that
Okay.
look on people.
Yeah.
And I'm a very positive person, and it's for me, I really care about helping people, and
Right.
there's a lot of, you have to sort of ride that fine line of empathy, but also play the political game. And I can't do it.
Right, right.
You're just empathy. Yes.
It can make you cynical, for
Very
sure.
much so. And
Yeah.
I'm not one to back down from a fight either. And there are some grown adults that are very vicious in that world.
Yeah.
And it's in order to rise above it, which is something Myra is great at, is rising above that and not letting it get to her. I let it get to me. And I just know it's not, I don't have thick enough skin for that world.
Right.
So
Yeah.
her husband worked at ESPN, and okay, that's okay. I just want to make sure that I got that right. So that's how you met Phil and all of that. Okay, so you do have to be thick-skinned for politics, but I also think you have to be really thick-skinned for real estate.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
you do.
so explain this to me, how you jump from one to the other, and it is like...
Well, in the software sales, I realized I'm really good at sales. Even though I honestly don't like sales, it just turns out I'm very good at selling things and
Right.
marketing myself and marketing a product. And so then my dad was also in real estate in Los Angeles when I was a kid. And it spoke to me for the reasons that I could stay at home with my kids. I could have control of my schedule. That was kind of the dream that was
Right.
I fed into. And then, it was really hard to get my license. It was very stressful, but I did it. And I joined a really great team that I was able to help build the Empire team, help build from the ground up. And the experience was great as far as the motivating, like the team and the training and all the things that went into it. Stepping out into the world itself, whole different world from the training, from the
like anything,
everything you learn. It's very cutthroat. It's very, it's hard. It's for sure hard. And I had a handful of sales my first year, and I really, really, really worked hard for those sales. But what kind of made me step back a little bit and go into a different direction was because of how difficult it was, and the money is not guaranteed.
Right.
And so that's what was hard for me.
It does seem like, and we're going to go into all things Orlando, but just to, touch on that a little bit. To me, it seems as a real estate agent, you could pour so much money into one deal, and it could be before signing day and it falls out. And all that money you spend, because I don't know if people realize you spend money on marketing materials.
Yes.
You spend money on your clothes. You spend money on your car. You spend money, the whole day you spend with buyers, driving them around, taking them out to lunch.
You gotta buy snacks for open houses.
Everything. And I got my license in October of 2021. And so that was kind of at the height of like the housing boom out here.
Yes.
The crazy thing about housing boom was sellers were making ridiculous amounts of money. They could list their house for whatever they wanted. And there was 20, 30 offers in 24 hours, over asking and all of that. And that made it easy for a lot of real estate agents that were already in the game. The newer agents, it was a little bit harder because there was a lot more competition. You had to do a lot more work. You had to be ready with your listing packets and, going to the listing appointments but already knowing you're one of 10 agents they've already talked to. Like, there's a lot of footwork, a lot of like behind the scenes that goes into it. And you're right. There's no guarantee. I had more than one deal blow up on me the week of closing, the day before closing. And as a mom, like that's your only job.
Yeah.
It's really hard to go through
That's
that.
a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah. And there was a lot of really great agents who are doing amazing now that really did well for themselves. But the caveat there is most of them didn't have kids.
Right.
Most of them had the ability to invest thousands of dollars to Zillow into marketing.
Right.
So that was a huge part of it too, was paying Zillow for your leads. And that was a big part of like when that was really booming. And it snowballed from there for a lot of people, and they were able to kind of keep riding that success. For me, it was a fight. It was an uphill battle from the very beginning for every dollar I made.
Sure.
And it just got to be a little bit too much. So I pivoted into leasing.
Leasing.
Yeah.
So you're a leasing agent?
Yes. So while I still have my real estate license, I can still help someone buy a home. I focus primarily on leasing and helping people rent. Because while you have 10% of the world that's out there that's looking to buy, the other 90% needs a house. They need a home. They need an apartment. They need a roof over their head. And they're all looking to rent. And so for me, that just made more sense.
Do you focus more on apartments or homes or both?
Both, but mostly apartments. Mostly because of what the local people can afford. Like what's realistic for them. It's the larger majority of people out there are looking for apartments. They're looking for affordable apartments, which is really hard right now with so many people moving down here from New York, from California, from other places that are insanely expensive. We're more reasonable than those places, but they're coming down here in droves, and that's just driving the rental rates up.
Yeah.
I have a question. So you mentioned something about 2021 having a boom here. Was that due to COVID, you think, or something else? Like, what made 2021 have a boom?
It was really the interest rates dropped quite a bit.
James and I have this back and forth because whenever we go into a city and we meet with real estate agents, 9 out of 10 times they'll say to us that the boom was caused by people fleeing the cities and wanting more space. So he says it's actually not true, but she's not saying. She said it was interest rates. Okay, so you don't even need to talk about it anymore. Okay,
Just to be clear, just to finish my side of the conversation, like we've been in some towns and cities where it's like it was not COVID that made people move, or it's kind of like, and you look up the actual statistics. And it's grown like 0.01%
Stop it.
in 3 years.
No, that's not true.
Like,
that's not true.
My whole point was it's not every town.
Okay, see,
I agree with that.
A lot of people moved to Florida because of the politics down here.
Political reasons. I know. That's way different than COVID.
It is. So this might be an anomaly. Okay, because every place else we've been to,
Florida is always an anomaly when it comes to the
It really is.
So interest rates were dropping and people were coming to Florida for, you're saying the politics. Is the weather ever involved? Because to me, I'm like, it's hot everywhere now.
The weather's a bonus. The people that were coming here were coming from places where the politics were causing the COVID restrictions to be like more strict.
Oh,
yeah.
And when you think about that, it was mostly boomers that were coming down, fleeing governments that were making you wear masks and making you do things.
Yeah, because DeSantis just let it all hang out when you guys were.
Exactly. It was a free-for-all.
It was, yeah.
So people were moving here like crazy because of that, because of the less restrictions. And they were coming from places where they were used to paying much larger prices for housing.
Yeah.
So they were willing to get in quickly. They were willing to offer over asking. And as soon as people started doing that, it just threw everything up.
Yeah.
So you had that fight here too, the over asking.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, you're talking, you put a listing on the market in 24 hours, you've got 10 offers, 5 of them are all cash and $30,000 over asking.
Wow.
Like, how long did that go for?
At least a year, maybe getting into the late 2022 around there.
Whoa.
It kind of started to slow down, I would say,
Holy
this year.
cow.
Yeah.
So it started in 2021. So you almost had a year and a half, let's say, or 2 years of over asking cash offers.
Yeah, for sure.
And what areas? Like, let's talk about Orlando. So when it comes to properties where people want to buy, where is it? Like, everyone just thinks Orlando is only Disneyland, only Universal.
So what's funny is Disney World and all that's not technically even in Orlando. Technically, that's Kissimmee, which is a totally different county. Orlando's mostly Orange County.
Right.
That's Osceola County, which is outside of Orange County. So it's adjacent. It's not exactly Orlando, but definitely Kissimmee was a big area because everybody, like the people that were in New York and California that are Googling Orlando were places to live, they're being pushed towards the touristy areas.
Okay.
So definitely those areas, definitely like places like Winter Park.
Okay, so explain where Winter Park is, where it's located, and how much it costs to live there. I know Winter Park, but for the listeners, what is Winter Park exactly?
So Winter Park is maybe the closest you're going to get to like Beverly Hills of Los Angeles.
Yep.
So it is in Orlando, and it's the more upper class area. Right. It's actually one of the older areas too. So the houses and everything out there, like they're older in general. The whole area is older. And so I know there was a lot of fights with like Winter Park versus the other areas around like Lake Baldwin and all of that as to what is actually Winter Park and what is not.
Right.
It's more old money.
It is. It's old money for sure. It's deeply rooted in people who do not want to leave.
When my buddy and I came down in like 1993, I hate saying that. Because it makes
You're
me
100
seem so
years old, okay?
But,
you're 100.
When we came down, we actually found an apartment complex. I would say it's Winter Park adjacent. Mm-hmm. And we went in. This place was so nice. And we did the math. And we were like, okay, we can afford the rent. I think we can afford the rent and all this. And he looked at me at one point. And, we were given like sort of hand-me-down furniture to move down here and everything. And he's like, I can't imagine taking that little ratty couch up the stairs of this nice place. He goes, I just don't know if Winter Park is a place for us right now in our lives. And he was so right. I mean, looking back on it, it's always been that way. But isn't like Altamont Springs is nice? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Is nice. Yeah, there's definitely some areas that are like on the outskirts, like over by UCF. That's Oviedo area. Those are some nicer, more suburban neighborhoods that are great for families and things like that. So as far as Orlando goes, there's so many little like cities and little sectors. Like you've got the Milk District, the Hourglass District. Mills, but those are more like the city. Like the
Right.
closer you get to downtown Orlando, the more you're in more of a city vibe.
Yeah.
You know, it's more
And
hipster.
I don't
more-
remember any of those places being called.
Nope, they were not
That
at all. This
when
is
we
something
lived
new.
here.
There was no
Yeah.
hourglass
There was
district.
Church Street,
Yeah.
and that was it. There was Lake Eola and Church Street.
That was
That
it.
was it.
That was it.
Yeah. Now you've got all these little sectors kind of popping up all over
Yeah.
the place.
So when people are coming from New York, do they? Okay, let's go back to that. What is it? Still, it's Kissimmee. It's Winter Park. That's
So it's kind of a mixture. Depends on who it is. Because if you're coming from a place where you have money, you're used to, you know, more luxury. Then yes, then definitely Winter Park, Apopka is another one.
Okay.
Altamont Springs, like you were saying, over in the Oviedo area. And then if going even a little bit further out to the coast, like Melbourne,
Oh yeah.
Cocoa,
Oh.
the Cape Canaveral area.
wow.
Coco's so great.
Yeah, those are beautiful areas. Very almost like undiscovered. A lot of people don't know as much about those like areas when they're coming out here. It's the closest to the beach.
Oh, is that right? It's not like fully saturated yet?
Not
kind of
yet.
thing?
No, it's actually the
Wow.
one area that's not.
Huh.
And it's kind of interesting because people haven't discovered it there. I think they think it's more bougie than it is.
Right.
But it's
Wow.
really not. It's-
Okay.
Whoa.
like you get
That's
the
some insider info
That is
there.
some
I
insider
like
info.
you
that.
should go check it out. The Cocoa Beach, Cocoa area, Cape Canaveral in general. Titusville is another good area.
yeah.
Mims.
Right.
They're really close to the water,
Mm-hmm.
but the prices there are much cheaper. Like it's much less expensive to live out there, and people
Right.
just don't know it yet.
Let's talk about where all the athletes live. Dr. Phillips, isn't it?
Oh yeah, so Dr. Phillips area is
And there was never a Dr. Phillips in the 90s. There was no. I don't. I
Does
think it was
Shaq
just.
still live there?
Does Shaq still live there?
I don't know. That's
Tiger
like,
he
Woods
lived
lived
in
there.
Windermere.
Oh, he did live in Windermere. Yeah. So okay,
I guess
tell
that's
us.
like the Hidden Hills, maybe.
Yes,
Like California.
yes.
Yeah.
It's definitely more private, more like the gated community or like the gated housing, like the private rows. I always say you can tell the more expensive an area is when there's no sidewalks. So
Oh,
like
it's true.
as the sidewalks start to go away,
Yep.
that's when they're like, we don't want you here.
Ooh,
we don't,
got
we
it.
don't want people walking
You don't
in
want
these
people
neighborhoods.
walking.
That is true. That's
And
very
so
true.
Definitely Dr. Phillips area. That's an area that's very saturated in like the arts and culture and things
Oh.
like that. It has like the Dr. Phillips Theater over in that area. So that's a bougie area. For
Name
sure.
names. Who lives over there? Do you know?
I have
if
no
anything?
idea.
You have no idea.
I know it's a lot of athletes live there.
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
What,
anybody
like
that-
Magic players and so Orlando
Yes.
Magic players
Yes.
and all
I'm sure they do. I don't know sports at all, so I
What?
can't tell you.
Oh, my goodness.
I mean, I went to my first like Orlando City soccer game and Magic game just last year, which was a blast.
Oh, you
What?
did?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell us some of the hip areas, the popular areas of Orlando. Like James said, when we were here in the 90s, it was just Church Street and Lake Eola.
that. Oh my gosh. It was like Redbug Road, right? Led to the campus.
Yeah.
And there was nothing there when I
Nothing.
lived there.
Yeah.
It was like marshland.
So let's
my
talk
gosh.
about like age groups. So if you're, let's say 15 to 20, where do you hang? 20 to 30, where do you hang? Like over 40, where do you hang? Because
Yeah.
I feel like Orlando is really different pockets, and
It
it's
is.
with regards to age.
It definitely is. Yeah.
And also, you still have a huge convention community. Like,
Yes.
so that to me is like, oh, stay away from that area of town because that's just like tourist hell.
100%.
But, all right, lay it down. Like, where do people
so
go?
for like the locals, if you're in like the 15 to 20 age range, definitely Universal City Walk, the Disney Springs area, iDrive. Those are some of the more popular areas because they have all of the fun stuff to do. You've
Right.
got Ripley's, you've got the
and the
wheel.
locals still go there.
The locals still go there, yeah, 100%. Because that's where like all the really fun stuff is, all kind of concentrated
yeah,
in one
the
place.
teenagers can run around and
Yeah, if you're a teenager, you can get dropped off in one place, walk the whole street, have a blast, you
Yeah.
know, get picked up at the end of the block and like have had dinner and snacks and seen a movie and done all the
Okay.
different fun
Right.
things
That
to
makes
do.
sense.
Yeah.
It's a fun thing, even for families, you know, if you're just looking for something fun to do. You have to battle traffic for sure. You have
Yeah.
to kind of plan ahead for a lot of those places and know that where you're going to park in advance.
Right.
You know where you're
It
going.
sounds like hell on earth to me. Let's talk about the 20s. Let's moving on. We're past the curve on
Yeah.
teenagers and all
I
that.
like
so-
Disney Springs. I've been
Okay,
there. I
good.
like
But
Disney
yeah, but you gotta
Springs.
plan ahead for that
Yeah.
because that's like, as for adults though, it gets to be a little taxing
Yeah.
for sure.
Where do the young hipsters, the 20-year-olds hang out? Where does everybody want
So
to go?
there's a lot of different little pockets of areas. So like the districts, like the Hourglass district, the Milk district.
Okay.
There's bars and nightclubs and restaurants and venues that are all in those little districts.
Right.
And so it's like if you're a local and that's kind of your area, that's where you go.
You can bounce in and out.
You can bounce around.
And is that in Orlando proper, or is that in Kissimmee
That's
or
in the city
Apopka?
Those are in Orlando.
Okay.
So those are on the outskirts of downtown Orlando.
Okay.
So like you have the Soto district where that's kind of more of where all the grocery stores are and the Target and all the restaurants, all the fast food restaurants. There's a lot of apartment living there, where there's a lot of apartments that are great affordable for people who are looking.
Okay.
And it's public transit accessible. So that's a really good area.
How is that
for people.
situation here? Public transit. Like if you're living in the suburbs, is it difficult to get downtown?
It can be. Yeah, it can be because there's less stops and there's less routes available.
Right.
And no matter what, if you're taking public transportation, be prepared for a long trip. An hour more than what you would expect.
It's
in
like
a car,
LA in
sure.
that regard. Then.
Yeah. But I think there's also Thornton Park, which is right outside of downtown Orlando as well, which is kind of there's the Thornton Park wine walk that they have once a month. And so that's kind of like your hipster.
Once a month, that's a lot of wine.
It is a lot of wine. Yeah, I believe it's the third Thursday of every month. And so all of the businesses in that area set up tables outside usually. And you pay one price and you get a cup and you get to walk and you get wine from every location. So the businesses participate. Everybody, sometimes the local people in the houses in the area will sit outside and give out wine.
Are you serious? Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, it's
a
lot of fun. There's restaurants. There's they also do they have tents and people come and pop up like artists and vendors.
Oh,
and stuff. And
that's Thornton Park.
That's the
very
Thornton Park
cool.
wine walk.
Okay,
it's a lot of fun. They'll do like a little kind of farmers market type thing, but also the.
we have to do that. Okay, we have to do the Thornton Park
It's
wine
a
walk.
lot of
Sold.
fun.
Okay, yeah,
and that's where it's a very easy date night or very easy because it's local, it's very low key, it doesn't have tourists, so it's not going to be crazy. So that's a really fun one. Lake Eola Park is another really fun one, so that's still there.
Okay,
there's just a lot more to do now.
The lake is still there.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
good.
beautiful. I was
It is
there.
very pretty.
I was there probably it was in February when we had friends come. We went and saw Bruce Springsteen play, and we walked around the park. Okay. There are apartment buildings that never were there before.
Yeah.
I need to know because it is beautiful. I mean, before it was so basic. Now it's not basic. How much are those apartments around that lake?
Ooh, okay. So the lowest priced 1-bedroom apartment that I have in that area is, I believe, $14.99.
That's not bad.
Not bad, but it goes all the way up to $18.99. So it kind of depends. And when we say $14.99, we're talking like 550 square feet.
Ooh,
So
okay, I
it's not
take that
big.
back. That's small. Okay,
So
I was
it's
thinking
not very
900
big.
square feet.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then
okay.
in the $18.99 range is more in the 780 square feet. So
Oh my gosh,
those are
you're not even
one-bedrooms.
hitting 1,000 square feet for almost $2,000.
Right. And these are 1-bedrooms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much is a 2-bedroom?
So
around
a
Lake
2-bedroom,
Eola?
at least $19.99 to $21, at least. And
Okay.
it depends, on the square footage. Do you have a balcony? What's the view? There's a lot of factors involved as to what that price range is. But yeah, it's up there. It's definitely getting up there.
I got to think about whether I can afford an apartment if you kick me out.
You cannot. I promise you.
I can tell you right now, I think that's the number one driving force in the cohabitating.
Yeah.
Even people who are not in relationships, everyone is looking for roommates right now.
Oh, wow.
That's just more of the standard is it's a lot harder for people to live alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in your line of work, I know in the past, this was not the case, but since cohabitating is such a big part of the leasing world, do you find, is your company helping people meet for roommates? Do you find roommates?
It's interesting is on my own, I wanted to facilitate that. I was this is a great untapped market. But then someone brought up all the liability issues to me and how people sometimes just don't get along and they would love to have somebody to blame for problems for that. So it's such a huge liability issue, which is why I think so many property management companies and other people don't want to touch
mess
that.
with it.
Yeah, they'll it's one thing to have a website where you can say you can match up with each other and kind of take it from there.
Yeah.
But I think for the liability issues, but if somebody could figure out a solution to eliminate the liabilities, that would be a genius market to tap into.
It would be harder to do it in the real world, I guess, because when you sign up for an app, they have 500 paragraphs of disclaimers and all that. And when you say I agree, then, it sort of absolves them from any responsibility.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're a person in the real entity.
There needs to be something like a dating app, like Bumble or something, but for roommates.
I agree.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, sorry, I coughed, totally interrupted you.
did,
So
totally.
sorry.
Sorry, it's okay.
What I was going to say is, why can't there be a roommate app?
There should be.
Nora. I think this should be your next
There
thing.
are roommate
I just
apps.
need to
They
find
have
a
to
great
be,
app
right?
developer.
Yeah, I imagine there can't. It's
I don't think
2023.
so.
There have to be roommate. Wait, when was the last time you looked for a roommate?
Phil, is there a
Seriously.
roommate app?
Your last
Phil?
roommate
Of
was
course
me.
there is.
Phil knows all things.
Your last roommate was
There's
me.
room
I feel like there's
buddy.
nothing
1998.
that's trustworthy enough, though. You know, like there's
Yeah.
nothing that has the trust that like the dating
Okay.
apps do.
So forget dating apps. You can be a matchmaker for roommates. So look, there are people that are
Yes.
matchmakers for partners.
That's true.
and what's the liability there? Like the liability has got to be the
Sounds like
same.
a lot of work for not a lot of profit.
No,
Seriously.
no, I think that would
I'm
be
shooting holes in this business.
I don't know why. I think it's fantastic. If you pay thousands of dollars to be a matchmaker to find your future husband, then you just pay hundreds of dollars to find your future roommate. Because some people will stay in an apartment for 3-4 years. And if they have a roommate that's willing to go the distance,
Yeah.
I would pay $300 if a person like Nora were to say to me, I will find you the most perfect roommate. You problem solved, just move in. I'll pay
You know, and
I'll
that
pay
would
$300
eliminate
for
a
that.
lot of
Like
issues.
Match.com.
Yeah.
Kind
But
of
like an actual
but a person, not an app, an actual person.
which would eliminate a lot of problems. Like, for example, this a great segue for the scams, the rental scams that are going around, and so many people are dramatically affected.
I've
by it.
heard about these rental scams. What are they? Because to me, it seems like, how are you getting scammed on a
Yeah.
rental? Like, what is this? Tell me what
Yeah,
this
don't
is.
you have to show
yeah,
up
don't you have to
and-
show stuff? I don't understand.
So, I mean, people right now are just so desperate to find affordable apartments that if you see a listing online that says you can find a 1-bedroom apartment for $1,000,
Right.
and you call up the phone number and they say, sure, you have to pay me $100 to tour the apartment.
Right.
Just to tour the apartment. Or they say, go ahead and fill out this little application really quick and then pay the $100 deposit.
Right.
And then we'll give you a code to go and get into the apartment and tour the apartment. And people pay the money. They get the code. Sometimes they actually get to tour the apartment by themselves.
No way.
Sometimes the code works. They get into the apartment. They look around. They say, great, I want to move in. And the person might send them even a lease. They might send them a lease that's a couple pages long, basic information. They'll be like, oh, no, we don't do credit checks. We don't do background checks. You're good. And then that's it. And then they show up
This
and
sounds
they find
insane.
out.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Well,
They show up
there's
and find out. What do they find out?
there's
Tell me.
different levels. So they
Would they-
get there and all of a sudden the code's not working. They can't get in. They don't know who to call. They get a hold of the property management team and the property manager says, oh, that person that let you into the apartment is currently being evicted. They gave you their
It
old
was their
code.
apartment.
Mm-hmm.
No.
And it was their apartment.
So they got your deposit. They got
Yeah.
your security.
They got all of it, and now they have blocked you. They've ghosted you, and usually they'll have you pay through
What?
Venmo or Cash App or something like that.
Right.
It's really hard to fight those and get
Yeah.
that money back.
Yeah.
So, and then they disappear, and then that.
Oh my God, that's brilliant.
So that's
That
one.
is crazy
That's
brilliant.
brilliant.
God,
Yeah.
thieves are so
We should
creative.
start doing that with our house.
Stop it, James.
It would work.
Just have
Oh my
people
God.
show up
Wait,
and pay
hold
money.
on, stop right
And
now.
some people
Wait, how
don't
do you
even get
figure it
that far.
out? How do you figure this out? Like, hold on, this could happen
Yeah.
to literally any single person. How do you figure this out?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and some people don't even make it that far. Some people will just pay $100 to set an appointment to tour it, and
Right.
then the person just disappears and never follows up with
Right,
them.
because they can get 10 people that week. That's $1,000 they made.
That's exactly what happened.
and just give them
If
the
you're
code.
looking to get an apartment for $1,000, $100 is a lot of money
Yeah.
to lose on one of these
It
things.
is. Especially if you're doing it
Oh.
multiple times. So you have people, I've dealt with people who have been crying on the phone saying that they've lost thousands of dollars in application fees just from applying places.
Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Wow. Like
And-
after the first time, wouldn't they be a little more like, hey?
You would think so, but then I guess people are desperate. When they're desperate, they're more
So
willing
you
to
guys
trust.
don't require that up front to see a place? Like
A legitimate property
legitimate-
management
right.
company is not going to ask for any money out of pocket for you to look at an apartment.
There's no like application fee?
There is an application fee. So once you've seen the apartment and you're happy with it, then yeah, you should expect to pay an application fee
Okay.
to apply. But previous to that, you should not be paying any money to view the apartment. You should not be required to pay money to apply before viewing the apartment. And so the best way that I tell people to avoid this and to just kind of vet these places out, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. So if you're
Oh,
seeing
okay.
an apartment on Facebook Marketplace is a huge
It's a
place.
no-no?
That's it. That's one where, and I have listings on Facebook Marketplace. So
Uh-huh.
if you see a 1-bedroom in one town for $1,200, $1,300, and then all of a sudden you see another one for $800,
Right.
it's probably fake.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around. I'm so sorry. I have to go back to this because
She's trying to run the scam in her head
Yeah.
right now and how it can work out for her. This is a Chicago in her. This is just we have to go through this
There's a
periodically.
little level of respect for
There's
it.
always an
I'm not-
angle.
Yes, Yes,
There's
there
always
is.
an angle, yeah.
Somebody came
Yeah.
up with this
I
idea.
I let her run through the paces and everything, and then
Okay, so hold on. I just need to know this. Okay, you will pay your security deposit because you've already seen this apartment. It is empty. You've walked in. You know where you're putting your couch.
Yeah.
Where the kids' bedrooms are going. You pay the security deposit.
You have a move-in date set in place. You might have even
But
signed
this
a
could
lease.
be anybody. You don't
Yeah.
actually, like, how would I know? This could be anybody. This is impossible.
And there are places that do virtual tours, so that sometimes is a thing. There should be certain steps that are taken. So if the price is too low and you're like, this is a steal, it sounds amazing, that would be my first red
okay,
flag.
that's it. So that's the one.
That would
Okay.
definitely be my first
Okay.
red flag. Once you have the address, another thing that I like to tell people to do is go to the property appraiser website for the county that the apartment or the house is in, and put the address in and see who the owner is, and see if you can like cross-reference that to make sure the person who's actually like, even if it's a property management company or something, you can at least look them up and see what other listings that they have.
yeah.
And kind of sometimes you can find the real listing and see that listing has a totally different price on the main website than it does on the listing you found.
This is so insane. Because there's no even way of fighting this in small claims court because those people use burner phones.
They're
They're
gone.
gone.
Fake
They're gone.
names,
You
the whole
guys, this
deal.
is like insane.
Yeah.
This is insane.
And it's a big business that happens a lot.
When did it start? I've never heard of this.
I would imagine that when social media became such a big thing, because that's, anybody the scammers are already scamming. They were doing it way before social media. So
Craigslist.
yeah, exactly. Craigslist was a
Craigslist
huge
was
one.
always a big one.
So as soon
It's
as
so
you get
easy to get
Facebook
ripped off for any
Marketplace,
little thing.
any like platform where you can sell things, you can offer goods or services, there's going to be scams.
All right, where do legitimate rent owners advertise?
Apartment leasing
Like, yeah,
agencies.
I'm
So,
sorry.
legitimate property management companies?
I'm a single person. I own a building, so where would I, like, if I'm legitimately renting, like, where do real people who are honest and they really have a rental, where do they go then if it's not Facebook You're saying Facebook Marketplace, be careful.
Just
where
be
do you,
careful,
Where do you
yeah.
go where it's not Facebook? Where's the legitimate place?
honestly, the best thing you can do is put a bandit sign outside of your house that just says for rent with the phone
Are
number.
you serious? That is old school.
It's old school, but it's the most successful way to get legitimate renters. Because even anybody who's scrolling the internet, you have people who are going to be driving around neighborhoods looking for those signs. And like I
Really?
get more phone calls from those signs than I do from people online.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So definitely bandit signs. Those are huge. I would say don't, shy away from Facebook Marketplace, but just make sure you have all of your information in the description. So that like
Is there anything that they could ask this person that's the scammer to know that they're getting scammed? Okay, we already know that the rent is cheap. So that's the first red flag. Was there anything they can ask this person to bust them?
I would definitely start asking more details about utilities, if utilities are included, who the electric company is with, just like the specific details.
That's a
about
good one.
The apartment itself.
Okay, I almost got scammed on an Airbnb and I knew immediately it was a scam. So I asked him, I said, what's the name of the school across the street? And he goes, I don't know. And I go, you own the house. How do you not know?
Yes, definitely
Okay,
asking about the
yes.
neighborhood, the community around it, little specific things like that for sure. But I still think the safest thing to do is property appraiser website. As soon as you have the address, like look it up, see who the owner is.
And try to get in touch with the owner?
Either at least Google the owner's name and see if they have any other properties. And then usually if it's fake, you can find a real listing. You can find the actual house or the apartment and see if it's even listed online.
Yeah.
You can call somebody and double check. But usually that's what it is you'll find the real listing and the real price. And then you'll see that like, okay, this has got to be fake. Because the real listing says $1,500. This one says $900.
Right. And the last thing is if they're
that's a
asking for
good
money
one.
up front before you've seen anything.
Yes, for
That's
sure.
probably a huge red flag.
Communication is only via text or email. That's a big one. If you can't get a hold of them on the phone and actually speak to somebody to ask all of your questions, that's a big one. And then, if they're asking for any money.
Okay, so talking on the phone, generally they don't want to do.
Because, they don't want to do that. They're not going to be able to answer all of your questions.
Right.
And usually if it's somebody
good
that
one.
is in another country, because you have people from a totally different country that are looking at current active listings and they're like, oh, this is a great one. Let me steal these photos and make a fake listing and see how many people I can
That's
get.
what happened to me on the Airbnb. That's exactly what they stole the listings. And then it's interesting because I called my girlfriend Brianna, who sold our house in LA, and I said, I think this is a fake Airbnb. She's like, oh, let me look it up right now. She goes, what's the owner's name? And she's a real estate agent, so she can do her whatever behind the scenes. She goes, well, the owner here says it's like, Joey, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And this guy was like Philip, da, da, da. And so then she said, I'm sorry. And sure enough,
Philip da-da-da,
she went on the
back at
property
it
and
she
again.
did.
website.
And then she said, there's an email for them. So I emailed the owner, Joey, and he said, no, we live in this house. I said, they're using you on Craigslist. He goes, I know. He's like, people have shown up at our house at like 2 p.m.
Oh
like,
my gosh, that's so
yes,
scary.
That was
to be there.
Wow.
Like people
I
are
remember
moving
that
in.
was a thing for a while. Yeah.
But it was a Craigslist thing
Denise
too.
is so happy right now. She looked at me like her eyes lit up when you said, you just get on the phone and call them, because I'm totally text
You're
and
gonna get
email
scammed.
guy.
You
I'm
are
totally
going
gonna
to
get
get scammed.
Denise
You're gonna
is
get
like,
catfished.
Denise
You're
is the
gonna
type
get
of person.
scammed.
She's like, just call Delta Airlines, and I'm like, oh my god, that just sounds
I
like.
would definitely prefer text or email than to have to call somebody.
I love calling.
Yeah,
I know she does.
That's so funny.
She loves to get somebody on the phone.
I love calling. I'm gonna be that old person at the postal office. The post when you stand in line, you have the old person who's like asking the girl, Shirley, how was your weekend?
Yeah.
That's me. That's gonna be me.
that's so
I love
funny.
talking to people.
She keeps her little handwritten phone book right next to her checkbook in her purse.
I mean, but even with texting and email, I would just tell people to do your research, because in Google, you can put phone numbers and emails in Google and put the word scam. And if it's ever been used in any type of scam, or anyone's ever reported them or talked about them online, you'll find some information.
Right.
Oh, so wait, repeat that. If anyone missed that, literally repeat what you just said. You put in their address, and
You
then what
can
do you
put
put?
in an address, an email address, the physical address of the property, their phone number.
The phone number they're texting you from.
Yep. And I would put the word scam after that in the Google search bar. And if there's anything associated with that number, email, or address, and any other scams on the internet, you'll find it. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good
Good
one.
information.
Okay, that's really good.
All right. Well, that sucks about Orlando.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the good things about Orlando.
I think that scam's
We went
going
down a
on
whole
everywhere.
wormhole there.
Oh, I know, but I don't think that's just subjected to
No,
Orlando.
I know.
Yeah.
No,
I mean,
it'd
but
be
on
fair.
on the upside, there are plenty of communities. There's new builds everywhere. I mean,
Are there?
Yeah.
Oh, they're clearing. So my my boyfriend's parents have been living here for 36 something years, and they live in an area off of Conway and Hoffner. So if you're local, you kind of know what the Conway area is. It's also older. I wouldn't say old money, because they're not necessarily wealthy people, but they are people that have been fortunate enough to own a home for 30 plus years.
Right.
Got it.
And right now, those homes are probably in the $400,000 to $600,000 range.
Okay.
But they all were purchased for like
$50,000.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And so it's an area that is slowly is developing more and more. Every week, there's like a new shopping center and a new apartment community, a new road. And his dad always talks about how there was nothing there when he was a kid, and there's so much there now. But any bits of like land, like lots of land and acres of land, they're clearing out, and there's new
It's all
apartment
developments.
everywhere. Florida is huge in development right now.
Yeah, they loved it. They
Yeah.
loved it back in the 90s. It hasn't changed from
It
what I can see. I
hasn't.
mean, so much is built
Yeah.
up.
So I mean, that's on the plus side. If you're looking to move here, there's
It's
plenty
true.
of opportunity.
Yeah.
So I have a question. In my experience when I lived here, and again, it was just for a short period of time. I found
6 months, hon. We know.
Okay,
Go on.
stop it. I found it to be, you mentioned something about you can get a job easily. I agree with you, but I always felt the pay was never, you couldn't make a living here. Like you had, like, as a young person, it was so difficult. So you're a mom with 3 kids. You come with a design degree. You're not doing design. So tell me, like, on your honest thoughts on, like, is the pay better? Because I have to be honest with you, the pay everyone said is commensurate. Am I saying
Commensurate.
Thank you. With like the food you're paying, the prices of houses. Okay,
Yeah.
Florida's expensive. I mean, I don't care what
It's
anyone
not the
says.
savings it used to be,
No,
that's for sure.
going to a restaurant is just as expensive as most places. It's not quite New York and LA, but it is pricey. Housing is not cheap anymore. Gas is expensive here. It's less than
Old
New York.
folks are going to Alabama now.
Yes, it's true.
Yeah.
Like we're hearing and we're seeing a trend of people now retiring in other places because
Yeah.
Florida is not the
It's
retirement
too
place. Alabama
expensive.
is supposedly the new place where people are going because it is
Your
more,
money will last.
Yes. So, Nora, what is the pay like here for people?
So, unfortunately, it's not gotten any better. The average salary is between $30,000, $32,000. And
Wow.
being that I process applications every single day, I see a variety of different income streams. And I've seen a large portion of people who are working 40 plus hours a week, but they're only clearing 28,000, 29,000, maybe 32.
How can you survive in this city then?
And when you think about it, most apartment communities are looking for 3 times the rent. And when you do that math, nobody's making that. And it's unfortunate because that puts a lot of people in a category where they have to have co-signers, and then they're forced to cohabitate or have roommates or have relationships because they need that dual income.
Right.
And so while I'm grateful that you can easily get a job here, there's so many restaurants, so many grocery stores, so many places. Most people have more than one job.
Yeah.
Okay, that explains it. Because I ask him all the time, how are people affording it? Unless you're a doctor, accountant, or a lawyer, how is the average person, like, working at a grocery store or working in retail, how are they affording to live here? So it's really, people have probably a second job on the weekends.
Yep, second jobs and roommates.
Nora's not telling you everything, though.
Oh, Nora, what are you not telling us?
You've got to live in Florida. You got to have 2 jobs, a side hustle, and a little scamming on the side.
Hence the rental scams that are running rampant.
Oh, there you go.
We got to come up with a better scam.
We do. I think people have already capitalized on that one. We got to come up with a different one now.
Yeah.
I got one. Start a podcast.
There you go.
Well, and what's really
That's
funny
the
is
side hustle. That's not the scam.
Oh,
the scam
whoops.
is like what makes you the dirty money.
there's a whole new market that I recently discovered, and Phil was actually the one who's like, you've got to figure out how they're doing this, and I did.
Oh, tell me.
So you can actually pay people. There are people who promote apartment approvals, and that's what they'll say. They'll say, if you need an apartment approval, hit me up. Like, I can help you. And I was like, what is this? What does that mean? Because I know the process. How do you approve somebody through a software? And it's a whole process. So I'm like, well, how is this random person on Facebook saying they can get me an apartment approval?
Right.
And what they do is it's all fake documents. There's a CPN, which is a fake social security number that comes up as no credit. So if you have terrible credit, they give you a fake social security number. They give you all these fake pay stubs, fake everything, and you use all of that to apply. And then your credit
So you can have a criminal record.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, how do you as a leasing agent figure that
bypass all
out?
of that.
How do you,
So there's a couple of red flags. If you're a grown adult human and you come back as no credit, like NA, no credit at all,
it's impossible.
That's a red flag.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless you were just dropped off.
You've had a cell phone, you've had a car, you've
that's a
had a
good point.
bank account. Like, there are too many things that you have to use your credit for that you should never come back as no credit found.
Right.
Like, unless you are not from this country and you have no social security number. Otherwise, that's a huge red flag.
Okay.
Not being able to get in touch with like the company that you're saying you work for, not being able to find an HR department or manager.
Has this ever come across your desk, something like this?
It
Ooh.
has, yes. And in which case I have to do more research, I have to do more digging. We have to start calling companies and cross-verifying and referencing things to try to get more information. And if things aren't just adding up and it really seems like we can't get enough information to prove, like, I can't prove your income. Yes, you gave me the pay stubs, but I can't seem to get a hold of anybody on the phone to tell me that these are real.
Right.
But honestly, people are smart. They know how to get past all this
so what
stuff.
do you tell them? Like, when you know it's a fake, like when you go back,
Yeah,
when you,
what does a
I want to
rejection
know what that
sound
phone
like?
call looks like. Sounds like.
It's typically not a phone call, sadly. It's usually a text.
Because you
or
don't like to
email.
talk. You don't want to talk to
No,
them.
I don't like confrontation.
It's
either,
not up
so-
for discussion anyway.
It's not. And
I
it's
want to call
usually-
them. I want to call
We
them.
usually
yeah,
tell
Denise
them
wants
it's
to call them.
credit because of credit or income or whatever, that you just don't meet our qualifications.
And do they ever come back and give you a hard time with it? Because they paid money for this. So they are not figuring out why they're not passing when they just paid someone to provide them with the fake documents.
Yeah.
So do they give you any hard time?
They do. I'll get pushback from time to time. And honestly, I feel bad because I know people are just trying to survive. And it's, I hate that I'm put in a position to kind of have to tell people I can't help them.
Right.
But I've also, on the flip side of that, I have, like, just recently, Friday, I had a new move-in, and she was a young single mom that was living in a shelter. She was in a horrible shelter downtown, like the scariest place. And it took several weeks for her to get the help she needed to help with the deposit. The shelter was going to help her with the deposit money, and it was a lot of paperwork and back and forth. But this woman, she has 2 jobs. She's been working 2 jobs and just keeping her head down until she could save up the money she needed. And she got approved. She was able to pay some things off, build her credit up, show proof of income because she was working 2 jobs.
Right.
She had everything in place. We were able to verify everything, and she was able to get approved and moved into an apartment.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. So, those things, like, I tell people all the time, I've seen people who will do the work. And I've seen people who won't.
Right.
Oh, okay.
And the people who call up Tony 2 times, who swears it's going to work and gives you a new social security number.
Oh, people try to get over on us
Tony
all
2
the time.
times said this was a lock. What's going on?
Tell me the best story. Like, tell me one of the funniest things that has ever happened.
Oh gosh. So I was
and someone trying to get over.
Someone trying to get over on us.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, let's see. So I've definitely had people where you just kind of knew that everything they were telling you was just not true. Like their stories were just all over the place. I had somebody come in and actually recently I had somebody come in. He was saying his brother was homeless. He was trying to help him. That he had a check for $10,000.
Oh, okay. When they start off like that, right?
He's like, we'll give this to you right now for rent if you can just sign a lease. Sign the lease for the guy. Like, give us a lease, give him an apartment. I'll give you this check right now to pay for the next 3 months of his rent. I'm just trying to get him off the street and get him into an apartment. And it was the weirdest thing. And I'm like, what? That doesn't make sense. I'm like, why do you, like, can't you just go to the bank, open a bank account, like, go through the normal procedure? And he was like, no. Like, that's not going to work. Like, I'll just give you this check right here. And it was a whole thing. So I ended up having his brother do the application like we would anybody else. And I mean, he had a criminal record. He was on the sex offender list. He had horrible credit, like all of these things.
I was going to say it was either that or terrorism, one of the two. It was like,
but the guy was literally trying to buy me off. He was like,
just to pay it all up front.
Yeah, just pay it all up front to bypass all of that. And I was like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Like, sorry.
Wow.
And I had another guy too that ended up being on the sex offenders list. And he told me in the beginning, like, oh, it was a long time ago. He didn't tell me he was on the sex offenders list. He told me there was just a thing that might come back in his background. But, that was from like 20 years ago. And it was just this girl. She was just trying to get to me and made up stories about me and all of this stuff. And then he does the application. It comes back and I'm like, I can't let you move in here. Like, it's still on your record. I don't know what the story or the situation is, but this is what the government is saying. So,
oh, wow.
It's very interesting.
Okay, so now tell us a really funny one.
So the funniest thing I've dealt with is actually a resident. I had a young girl was in the office signing a lease, getting ready to move in. Her mom was there, and you could just tell it was the girl's first apartment. The mom was really nervous. Like I'm trying to like let her do it, but also like jumping in, and you could just tell like she was nervous. The girl was excited. And one of the residents comes inside and tells me that his neighbor was playing music really loudly. And he's like, I looked outside to see, what all the commotion was, and he had his penis in his hand. Oh. And he was like, and he was pissing on the side of his car. Oh. And he's telling me this in the office, standing over me, telling me this story while I just finished explaining to this mom that it was a safe community for her daughter to live in. And so I just had to kind of laugh it off and say, well, obviously that's not acceptable. Like, obviously it's poor manners. I'll definitely make sure to send it.
The mother left there like a bundle of nerves. She's like, what am I doing?
Thankfully, they were really cool about it. Like, they kind of laughed it off and like they weren't ruffled about it at all. Funny enough, the daughter worked for like the youth correctional facility. So she was like, I don't care. She was, she was cool with it. But yeah, that was a funny one. We get a lot of dealing with the residents. Yeah. Is always interesting.
I imagine. Yeah. Oh my gosh, the stories you could tell.
That's a lot of craziness. People are all over the place because you're dealing with them on like their level because you're in their home and their space.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
They do not hesitate to tell you things you don't want to know. 100%.
Too much information all the time, it sounds like.
Oh yes, very much so.
Oh my gosh, that's great. Okay, well, so let's talk about some of your favorite spots, restaurants, things to do here in the city that locals do, because we all know, there's a list, and every hotel you go into, there's a whole rack of cards where you can go to Gatorland and all this other stuff. And but we want to know like the real deal. Like, what do you do? What do locals do? Where do you see people who are Orlandans? Is that the word? Orlandians?
Orlandoans.
Is that the proper terminology?
Sounds
Phil?
like it. Orlandoans.
Orlandoans. Where do they go?
I have 3 kids, and so I tend to try to do things that are a little bit more budget friendly, and also easier to manage all of the kids.
Right.
So we're really big on the parks. There's so many, not the theme parks, like the smaller local parks. There's a lot of really great local parks like Barber Park. They have splash pads. They have tennis courts and basketball, and like they have everything you can. We love park days. So in the weather out here, obviously everyone knows it's either excruciatingly hot or great.
Those splash pads come in handy.
Very much.
That's where the kids run and the thing squirts up and all that. Yeah,
those are really fun. I mean, there's so many of them all over the place. They're really easy to find. I love the Orlando Science Center. Okay. That's another really fun one for just like an afternoon trip with the kids for a few hours, especially if you go during the week, like in the afternoon when it's quiet, if you can do that.
Right.
But we mostly kind of focus on that. Like I'll even take the kids to the Florida Mall and we'll just walk around the Florida Mall.
I used to work there.
Did you? Yeah,
I worked at, I don't know if there's still a Ruby Tuesdays there or not, but I worked in one there. It's
malls
probably
are
not there.
Malls are changing quite a bit. They're like kind of ghost towns now. There's not as much going on.
It was brutal back then, so I can only imagine how.
Was it dead?
Totally dead. I worked.
It's 100 years ago. How could it be dead?
I worked a 10-hour shift one day. I think I made $36.
Oh, that's horrific.
Like that. It was brutal.
You can make more holding up those signs that says cell phone store here, cell phone store
dressed
here.
as like a comic book character.
That's funny.
It's totally up my alley.
That's funny. Lake Eola is obviously a fun place to go because there's especially if you go during the farmers market they have once a month. Right. There's a lot of farmers markets too that happen in different communities. A lot of the parks. That's always really, really fun. So like for me, because we are trying to be budget conscious, that's usually something we'll do is we'll go out to one of the farmers markets. We'll go have a park day. We'll go to the mall, Lake Eola. Like those are some of my favorite things to do. I'm not a big social person as much. So I don't do a lot of going out.
Right.
But when I do, there's a few spots downtown in downtown Orlando that I love. And I don't go downtown a lot because it is kind of crazy out there sometimes. But Stardust Lounge is really cool. And then so right upstairs above Stardust Lounge is a tiki bar. So it's kind of you get 2 in 1.
Oh.
So martinis and Mai Tais.
Exactly.
I like it.
The vibes are really cool. Yeah. It's a very retro, really, really interesting vibe there. So that's one of my favorites. As far as foods, so Gringos Locos is definitely one of my favorites. I don't know if you guys have ever eaten there. That's a Mexican restaurant? So it's not a restaurant. It's actually just a taco place where it's a small little box of a restaurant, and they actually did great during the pandemic because their business model is all just get it and go. Yeah, it's all to go.
So it's more like a counter window or something.
Yeah,
like that.
and they have those ghost kitchens where you just do DoorDash and all that kind of stuff. But their restaurants, you walk up, you order.
Wait, what's a ghost kitchen?
Do you want to explain?
So a ghost kitchen is essentially just where they only cook the food. There's no place for people to go in and order or to sit down or to anything like that. It's all for online delivery. They
became really popular, some in LA, but mostly in New York.
So I can't walk up and pick it up myself. I have to have someone.
But you can order it on Grubhub and they'll deliver it to you.
Yeah.
So it can be made out of someone's apartment kitchen, basically.
Yeah,
kind of.
But it could be. Yeah.
There's rules though. I know in order to have a ghost kitchen, it has to be regulated and permits and all that.
Okay, so they did the ghost kitchen thing then.
They did the ghost kitchen thing and all of they have several different locations all over Orlando.
Oh, they do. They're like a chain.
Yeah. Yeah, they're a small chain. It's a local chain.
It's called Gringos.
Gringos Locos.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a fun one.
Is there one around here?
There is one around here, actually. Actually, no. Is there one around? I always forget that we're in a different.
We're not in the old studio.
Phil, you need to put a Gringos Locos here in the podcast Doctor Studios.
I would love to because their place is amazing.
It's great. Food.
Okay, 2 votes.
Yeah, it's really good food.
Okay, good.
And there's a lot of fun local restaurants. Some of my favorites are so Orange Avenue is a popular street that goes right through downtown. So it's just a very long street that can take you as far as over by UCF area and all the way into downtown. But there's a lot of restaurants along that way. And then when you kind of branch off from there and go off into Mills and the Thornton Park area and all that, there's a little little Vietnamese area.
Oh
where there's
my
a
God!
whole
I was just
bunch.
about to say that little Saigon.
Yeah, that's what it is.
There's a little Saigon in Orlando now?
What? Is it off Mills? I think?
Mills-
Yeah, so
Mills
right, so
District.
off of Mills.
Oh my gosh,
Street.
that wasn't here in 100 years ago.
No,
Go ahead.
there were no banh mi's
Yeah.
to
No.
be had in Orlando when I lived here.
There's so many ramen places and pho places.
What?
And, like all up and
Okay,
down that road.
That's crazy. So what road is that?
Mills.
Mills.
Okay.
Yeah, Mills Avenue.
Good to know.
We found Orlando, we call it the corporate restaurant haven. There's corporate restaurants everywhere. So to hear you say, oh, this is a mom and pop or this is locally owned, it's such a breath of fresh air because
Yeah.
I always equate Orlando with Chili's, TGI Fridays, Ruby Tuesdays, Miller's Ale House.
When we were on Phil's podcast
Yeah.
a couple weeks back, and I said it seems like in every strip mall there is a
Yeah.
sports bar called Ricky McDickles or something like that. Like it's the silliest, most Irish,
That's
corniest
funny.
names that you can come up with, and I just see them all over.
Those are for the tourists.
Yeah.
Okay, is that
Those
what that?
Those
Okay.
are definitely for the tourists. So they think when
Okay.
you think Florida and you think certain specific things, those
Yeah.
are just what everyone's kind of comfortable and
Yeah.
knows. But the locals, there's so many mom and pop restaurants, like small businesses, like that's where they go. And
So there's been a food explosion
Yeah.
in Orlando.
oh yeah,
Can I give y'all a recommendation?
Yes,
Sure.
please do.
All right, so there's a place close to where the old studio was, Nora, a little south of that, a city called Edgewood. Right on the corner of Edgewood, it's still on Orange Ave, but it's called, I can't actually say the word, but it's F Your Diet.
Oh, you know what? That's not there anymore.
They closed
They
it.
closed it.
They turned
I
it
quit.
into a Gator
Yes.
McTaters.
So it actually didn't stand for what you thought it stood for, though. It stood for Foster Kid Your Diet, and it was run by some people who were foster kids, and they were talking about how much they hated the food in like the foster care system.
Legit, I can imagine.
So
yeah.
it was comfort food. It was like bowls of like,
Gigantic comfort food.
yeah.
Oh, and they didn't
and
make it?
It's not there anymore. There's like a Mexican food place that's going in there now.
Oh my gosh.
It's this
sad
one little
now.
corner.
I hope it's because they all got adopted or something. Holy cow.
There's something with this one little corner where this restaurant is off of, let's see, it's Hoffner and Orange, and no restaurant can survive in that building.
Oh, it's one
this
of those.
is like the fourth one in the last like 3 years.
We've known
Oh
places
yeah,
Yeah,
the
we all
French
do.
restaurant closed. Like Coq
Then
Vin,
there was
like
an
Coq
Irish
Vin.
pub.
They have an Irish pub, Shifty McGinnis. something like that.
Your Honor, I rest my case.
When an Irish pub can't survive, there's like a ghost in that building. When an
There's
Irish
something
pub
about
cannot
that
survive.
place. I know. There's something about
Oh
that
my
place.
gosh.
Shifty McGinnis. That was a good one, Phil.
Yeah.
That was a
But like
good
the
one.
more,
like-
the further you go down Orange Avenue, there's so many restaurants. Like there's the Porch on Orange. There's two of those. There's one in Winter Park, and there's one in Orange. Same owners. My boyfriend's actually the manager of the one on South Orange.
Okay.
Amazing food. The
The
service
Porch.
is great.
Okay, check
It's
that out.
The
very-
food trucks too. Don't forget about the food trucks.
Oh, wait, where's
yeah.
that? Hold
I
on,
told
tell us.
We
you
touched
guys.
on this
You did.
before,
Okay,
yeah.
where do we go for the food trucks, Phil?
So there's a place called the Food Truck World. It's a little south of Orlando.
Very creative.
Is that the one on Colonial?
No, it's off of 192.
Okay.
It's literally like a huge area that's just like 80 to 90 to 100 food trucks.
What?
And it's all types of all
100
types of
food trucks.
100
Yes.
food trucks.
And you can just literally like
Yeah.
Wait,
walk and choose.
Is
what
it a
you
Monday
want.
through Friday? Is
They're
it a
open
weekend
every day.
thing?
Every day.
Okay, is it near here?
Yeah, it's about 25 minutes.
Okay,
from
we're
here.
going to the
gosh.
food truck.
Yeah,
What's
we're
it
gonna
called?
drop
Food truck
$300
World?
between
Yeah,
the
food
two
truck
of
world.
us. You know, food trucks are so expensive.
They're expensive. I know.
They are,
But they're so damn
expensive.
good.
And we have
$35
so
for
many
lobster
different
rolls.
options.
Yes,
Yeah.
I know. It is true.
Yeah.
$45
My
for
favorite,
lobster.
my favorite are like the Asian tacos. Like when they
What the
when
hell's an Asian taco?
like when they fuse two cultures together and you get like, you know,
yeah, I know. I don't like
you
that.
get like kimchi tacos or something. It's awesome.
There's a place called Tin and Taco that does that too. That's another popular like local spot.
What's it called?
Tin and Taco.
Oh,
and they
okay.
do like all different kinds
Fusion
of
type.
fusion tacos. Yeah, yeah. But there's
I'm a
so
sucker.
many. I mean, there's Vanberries, the Waterfront. And the further down you go, you start getting into some of like the Applebee's and like like Four Rivers barbecue place.
Is Four Rivers chain?
Yeah.
Okay, so when we start seeing the chain restaurants, we turn the car around and go back that way.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, what's a good? Okay, let's go. Okay, best barbecue in Orlando.
Ooh, oh my gosh, best barbecue, Sonny's.
No,
barbecue.
I have to argue with that.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Maybe I haven't had enough barbecue places.
I'll tell you, it's the hood dude in the corner of
It
Silver
is, he's
Star.
right. He's
And-
right. So if you can find a barbecue place that doesn't have a name, it just says barbecue on it, or like the same thing with like a seafood place or something like that. It may not be the best neighborhood, but it's going to be the best.
Yeah, the hood dude on the corner.
Okay.
That's the best barbecue.
What's the best
Sure.
Italian?
Oh, the best Italian. Oh my gosh. So on Curry Ford and Bumby, and I can't remember what it's called. I think it's just called like Italian Kitchen. But it's a little mom and pop place.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's a little mom and pop. And also Buttercrust pizza is good for pizza.
Yeah, we lost Katina. There was an Italian restaurant that closed. It was on OBT.
Yeah.
That was a staple in Orlando.
So
Orange
it's-
Blossom Trail.
Yeah, it's definitely the like little spots that are on the corner.
That's what we're always on the hunt
Yeah.
for.
So
But it's hard to find
is
because
church? It's always hard to find. Why?
there's a TGI Fridays like
Right
everywhere.
there.
No, they don't have TGI Fridays anymore. It's actually Chili's.
Yeah.
So is Church Street even popular anymore?
Not really. Not as
Who
much
goes
as
to
it's-
Church Street?
You know, more tourists, people, and
Okay.
like maybe more the people that work in that area. So like
Okay.
if you work in the businesses down there and
Yeah.
you're going for a drink or dinner after work, that might be the place to go. If you're having a wedding reception somewhere, that's the place to go.
Everybody's getting slushies at Fat Tuesdays. Is that still there?
Fat Tuesdays, no, I don't think
That's
so.
gone?
It's
yeah.
it's still at City Walk though.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
the only place that
Yeah.
I know of where it's at
Okay.
a
They
City
moved
Walk.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Downtown has definitely become more of like a corporate, like happy hour type place.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, and this just the rent has been
Mm-hmm.
outrageously high, so it has to be a mega corporation that.
Oh,
Oh, got it.
yeah, because the
it's
average
in there.
person isn't making money to open up a hair salon downtown. when,
Right,
you
right.
know,
No way.
No.
there's
Businesses and restaurants are struggling down there. There's been a lot of turnover. Yeah.
But no one will think about lowering their rent. It makes no sense. It's so crazy. So basically, though, Nora, there is more to do in Orlando than just go to the theme park.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's so much more to do out here. And there's a lot of things to do that are inexpensive. And you know, if you're willing to spend a little bit of money, you can do so many little things throughout the day between, you know, stopping at museums and shows and eating. Like there's so many things to do. Yeah.
How many days do you think someone should stay here when they're coming to visit? Like, what's a good amount of time?
I think 4 to 5 days is a good amount of time.
okay.
You need to definitely spend, you know, you want to go to the parks, do your thing at the parks. But also go like check out the beaches. Maybe don't go to like
yeah.
Cocoa Beach is the one beach everybody goes to.
Yeah.
But maybe like venture out a little bit more and go to some of the other beaches.
What would you suggest?
So I know Clearwater is a popular one too, just because it's less crazy and less busy. It's also really beautiful out there. And then if you're gonna be in like the Cocoa Beach area, there's other areas outside of like where the pier is.
Got
Because
it.
the pier area where the restaurants and all that are, that's where like the crowds are. That's where everybody
Right.
goes. If you kind of just go up the coast or down the coast a little bit, you'll find so many other little beachy spots that are quiet and private.
New
So
Smyrna
hit Ron
Beach.
John's and then go somewhere else. Like
Yeah.
venture out a little further.
Yeah, just kind of drive down the coast. There's so many other little parks that are along the coast that are fun and not as crowded.
Public access, I presume. Yeah.
Yep,
or
public
you just
access.
pay. You can drive. I always forget. You could drive on the beach here. We
can.
can never do that on the West Coast.
Yeah.
So, like you could pay your parking fee or whatever. And
Yeah, but there's a
drive
lot
right
of them where like you pull off of one little side street and there's a huge public parking lot and you just
Yeah.
walk down the.
They make it very easy here for you to enjoy
It's
yourself
true.
without nickel and diming you. It's so much easier than on the West Coast for
Yeah.
sure. So do you see yourself staying here forever?
No.
Oh,
What?
No. I think that for me, because I do have a family and I think I'm kind of entering a different phase in my life where I'm looking to kind of go someplace that's quieter,
What?
slower pace.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
You're so young.
From being in like growing up in Los Angeles in California and
Yeah.
then coming here, I've always been in places that were really high paced and really fast moving. And I want to go someplace that's a little calmer and a little quieter. And I don't mind driving 15 minutes out, you know, to go to a grocery store or whatever. My dad lives in Ohio and I used to fight it the idea of moving to Ohio. But then I went to visit him and I was like, I kind of like
Where in
it.
Ohio?
Cincinnati.
I'm from Youngstown.
Yeah.
Near that area. Yeah.
Okay.
Cincinnati is a great area.
It is.
It's way different than it was when I was a kid. So.
And I don't know if Ohio would be the place, but it really opened my mind up to the possibility of a different way of life outside of
May
the
we
cities.
suggest right across the river, we have friends.
Oh, yeah?
And, yeah, we do. We have friends.
We do. Surprise.
In Covington, Kentucky.
You should
Okay.
definitely look
Yeah.
at Covington. It's across you can walk.
Which
It's
I thought
beautiful.
was so cool that like you
Yeah.
can get there so fast.
There's Ludlow. There are a handful of little areas around
You might
there.
like it. Yeah.
It's
Why
worth
not-
it's worth a look.
Why not stay in Orlando? Why not stay in Florida? Florida has a lot of little hidden
I've
pockets.
thought about it. I
Yeah.
have. I've thought about venturing out to the coast because it is cheaper out there to live right now, and it's kind of an undiscovered gem. So I've thought about that because I love the water.
Yeah.
So being back by the water, and so I'm open to it. But I've also kind of want to experience living somewhere where there's actual seasons. Like I would love to
You've
experience.
never
a real
had
fall.
that.
I've never had that.
No, you've never.
Living in
No.
LA and then coming here.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, have you ever had a white Christmas?
No, only when I've gone to like visit my dad.
Yeah,
and,
that's it.
visit
Only when she
somewhere.
goes to Kissimmee.
Not that kind of white Christmas.
No, yeah, I would say Ohio has what? Yeah, you see snow there. So
Yeah.
okay,
But
Wow.
I don't do great in the cold either. So I'm like, but then again, the wardrobe is different.
It's true.
When we went to visit, we took all of our winter clothes
Uh-huh.
and we immediately were like, this is not enough.
It's
We had
not.
to go and buy jackets
Yeah.
and long
Yeah.
underwear and socks and everything. So
Yeah, your little cotton sweaters are not going to cut it in
Right.
Ohio winter.
yeah.
No,
I'm like, but then I can wear boots and wear really cute
super
jackets.
cute. Winter
like,
clothes are the best.
Yes, that's part of my like argument for why I'm thinking of leaning in that direction.
Got it.
You have to change your handle.
Makes sense.
I know, right? But I was like, that's great.
Cincinnati's
because I can
too long of a name.
I can
You gotta
be
be.
Nora
You gotta.
Loves everywhere. Like,
Oh, you
Oh,
could do that.
move,
That's
wherever I
true.
move, it can just change wherever I'm at.
I like it. I like it a lot. Well, look, we certainly appreciate the time you've given us today, and basically it felt like an Ask a Local for us. You telling us all about Orlando. We have a whole section of town now where we can go
know.
for
Yes.
little restaurants that we never even knew about, and 100 food trucks and all that. And we can't thank you enough for especially giving us some intel and some inside info from the viewpoint of being a leasing agent. We really
Yeah, of
appreciate
course.
that.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you so much.
All right, that's going to wrap up this episode. We will see you guys next week. Why don't you take them out?
Empty nest, full tank.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.